As a young girl, she cherished her family and learned the value of all things beautiful. As a woman, she was a renowned opera singer, a generous philanthropist, and as always, a devoted daughter and Christian. Her life is mirrored in the Bible Research Center and Elsong Gardens, which reflect her commitment to religion and the arts. In 1902, Emma Louise was born to Joseph and Ann Biedenharn in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Ann was determined that her children would value art, literature, and music. Her brothers would take music lessons and recite poetry, while Emy-Lou would learn about Michelangelo and Italian art from her nursery books.
Mother read with such realism about streets like glass in Venice that I believed in streets of real glass. When she read of faraway London, it became a place of royal palace gardens, of kings and queens, and of scarlet-coated guards on black horses. And of course, from the time I could sit on a piano stool, I was made to practice. There were tears, but there was music.
Emy-Lou's father had inherited a confectionery store where he and his 6 brothers produced pastries and candy and sold the very popular fountain drink Coca-Cola. By the time Joe was 28, he would be the first to bottle Coca-Cola so he could provide it to his rural customers.
Father would deliver his new nickel beverage to the Mississippi Territory with horse and buggy. The country routine would be broken as he approached rural stores, honking an old-fashioned horn by squeezing its attached rubber ball. "Here's Uncle Joe," the children would call out. To each child, he would give a jawbreaker, a licorice stick, or a handful of jelly beans.
Joe Biedenharn was eager to teach his sons the principles of business, and in 1913 bought the Monroe bottling plant. It consisted of a small frame building on muddy Washington Street, 1-foot-powered bottling machine, and a set of mules, Kit and Cat. From this modest beginning, Joe and his sons would continue to pioneer the Coca-Cola bottling industry.
On our first Sunday in Monroe, we walked to the Leighton Castle of Henry Bree and Audubon fame. We stood under the enormous oaks in front of the home built by Captain Stubbs in 1859. We often strolled along Riverside, admiring the immense magnolias and camellias. And on this street across from Forsyth Park, Father chose a corner lot to build our new home.
Using the plans from the Vicksburg house to conserve cost, Joe was his own architect and contractor. Having only $2,000, he had to borrow another $4,000 to complete the home.
These were our lean years. Mother's approach to rearing her family was a delicately balanced art. We were disciplined, yet without any loss of freedom. Many old Southern traditions were bred into our everyday life. For both Mother and our nanny took pride in their own Southern heritage. The Methodist Church was the center of our family's new life. There was always activity in our little backyard. Mother frequently won blue ribbons at the state fair with her perfect blooms of chrysanthemums and roses. In the midst of all these growing things, there were also baby ducks, chickens, and even a piglet, which was a real source of entertainment.
Even with the piano lessons that her mother struggled to keep her at, Emy-Lou cherished her family and young adult years. But it wouldn't be long before music began to play a significant role in her life.
Unlike most musicians, I had displayed no musical talent at an early age. I never had a burning desire to sing. I didn't even have a mild desire. But there came a moment when Mother, with adroit determination, swept me off to a voice teacher in Boston so fast that I hardly had time to object. I started my first voice lessons assuring Theodore Schroeder that it was my mother's idea to make me sing, and not mine. I nevertheless found myself enjoying this fine teacher-musician who had such infinite patience with me.
In June of 1928, Emy-Lou would sing for Madame Schumann-Heink at the Kansas City Conservatory, who spoke of the velvet quality of her contralto voice. Soon after, with her fascination for Europe, it was decided that Emy-Lou would study in England with the well-known Sir George Henschel, who had been the first conductor of the Boston Symphony Orchestra and was later knighted for his contributions to music. For the next 11 years, Emy-Lou would learn the people, the music, and the studios of London, and she loved every minute of it.
I would start my day with the opera company in London early in the morning and work until late at night. I learned role after role by heart and studied with German, French, and Italian language professors, struggling with the intricacies of pronunciation. As a welcome relief to this concentrated effort came the joys of makeup classes. It was fun to see my face transformed into the darkness and wizardry of an Azucena, the gaiety of Madalena, or the suffering of Arturo.
One afternoon, Emy-Lou sang Brahms' Saffici Ode. As she finished sotto voce, there was stillness for a moment, when the soft vibrations of the piano and the last translucent note of the singing seemed to continue in crystal sound. As the sound faded, Sir George took both of her hands in his.
God bless you, my dear. I kiss you for Brahms, and wish he could have heard this. He composed this ode, you know, for a deep-timbered contralto voice with a flowing cello sound, and he was never quite satisfied with what people did to this exquisite bit of music and poetry.
By 1931, Emy-Lou had studied 3 years with Sir George. She sang in beautiful old manor houses, at receptions in castle halls, at church benefits, and at musical parties.
As I sang, my imagination soared, and Mother and Father fed my dreams for a continental debut.
To every Biedenharn, Denmark, the homeland of Joe's mother Louisa, had special meaning, and Copenhagen was chosen for a concert debut. It would also fulfill Emy-Lou's secret wish to see the little bronze mermaid she remembered from her childhood fairy tales.
At last, the longed-for day of my debut arrived. I felt the spell of some sinister troll causing butterflies in my tummy. But the butterflies disappeared when I walked onto the stage that night, and the entire audience stood and applauded. This touching recognition unleashed the joy of the singing. At intermission, the abundance of flowers let me know that the Danish people had taken me into their hearts, and this sealed a basic solidarity and devotion to my chosen career.
Enthusiastic audiences and reviews would follow Emy-Lou's concerts in Hamburg, Berlin, Munich, Dresden, at The Hague, and in New York and Boston. In 1939, Emy-Lou would give her farewell opera performance in London. Her beloved mother, Anne, had died 3 years earlier, and now her world pointed in one direction only, Louisiana and home. She and her father would rediscover each other in the love of a new song, the love of a garden. Joe Biedenharn would give his daughter complete freedom in planning, building, and transforming their backyard into what would become known as El Song Gardens, but he had many doubtful moments.
Sister is really overdoing it, talking of minstrel galleries and ballet lawns. All we need is a few flower beds and a place for tomatoes.
During the excavation, I made a hurried trip to New Orleans to locate a small ornament for a cascading pool. Instead, I found 5 iron statues of heroic size, each weighing 1,700 pounds. Father was shocked, but humored.
One Statue of Liberty is enough for New York, but Emy-Lou has to have 5.
Together with C.C. Pat Fleming, a young landscape architect from Texas, Emy-Lou would create her living song. El Song opened to the public in 1970 and has enchanted thousands of visitors from both near and far with its exquisite horticultural displays.
Father was always amazed that even little children loved this formal garden without the added attraction of his ducks and chickens. Nevertheless, he could not hide his pleasure over his new surroundings.
There's a lifting up in a garden with its seasonal mysteries. Daughter, there's a lifting up when you watch the rhythmic wonder of nature freshen the earth with each new sunrise.
In 1971, Emy-Lou opened the Bible Research Center, one of the few of its kind to exhibit biblical research, artwork, and period furniture. Her collection was inspired back in 1939 when Emy-Lou's father gave her a first English translation of the New Testament by John Wycliffe. The vast holdings of the center date back as early as the 1st century A.D. Anne Eubanks wrote of the center's early days.
It was a very interesting time in my life when I met Miss Emy-Lou Biedenharn and was given the opportunity to work in the Bible Research Center. Before the official opening, Bibles and other rare books came pouring into the center, which had to be cataloged and placed in their proper places. It was so inspiring to know that men risked their lives to translate the Word of God so that people would be able to read and study His Word.
Today, the Bible Research Center, El Song, and the Biedenharn home remain open and free to the public. They embody Emy-Lou's life devotion to singing, the arts, family, and religion. But most importantly, they reflect her greatest desire, that of sharing all things beautiful.